Hi, this is Thoughts
Like
Like
Rabbits. Okay, today our
Rabbits,
topic
not
is... the topic is Tangled and the Varian Moon Theory and why what in the world was Disney thinking? Okay. Our problem with the last episode was it didn't feel like it pulled all the stops, and it just completely skipped over a lot of important details. I want to talk about Varian. Then I want to talk about Zantiri.
With Varian, it started before he was even born.
Of everyone in the Brotherhood, he is literally the only one born after being blasted with the Moonstone.
As in, he has a little bit in him.
So he's got a tiny sliver of it, which is evident in his hair and eyes, and frankly what I think is the fact that he's so indestructible.
The very first episode. They did get away with a little bit of blood, but for comedic effect. And
the only way Disney will show blood is through comedic
smacks
effect.
him in the back of the head, he bleeds a little bit, and then faints.
And
frankly, that's understandable but his wound was pretty much healed by just a little bit after he took Rapunzel's hair off his head, which indicates that it does have some healing powers.
Either that or it was healing, and he just. So I think he's not invulnerable to sharp things.
Yeah,
it can cut as things
sharp
cut him, but he can't be hit. But he can't gain.
But it will keep him alive.
That's why explosions don't work. Then there's the scene where Rapunzel is freeing his dad from the amber, and he touches her. When Cassandra touches her when she's using the dark incantation,
she touches her for a whole 3 seconds.
Burns her glove off and half of her arm. Whereas Varian is just like, hey, it's working. Like, it's not bothering him at all, and I think that's because
everyone else, when she did the incantation,
everyone else
falling
was normal.
all over the place. Just
everyone
unable
else
to stand.
Was normal. Varian would be protected from that particular incantation because of the Moonstone power, which is reasonable enough to assume, and makes complete sense, which is why it's a little confusing. When Zantiri was doing it, he felt just like everybody else, instead of being like the last one standing, which would have made way more sense. At the very least, he should have been the last one standing, and I think it would have been really cool if during that scene his eyes turned brown or something, and that blue streak in his hair just kind of like you see a little.
He would probably be soaking up quite a bit of that power too, because it's the Moonstone itself that's sucking up that power. Or the Moonstone and Sunstone. Sucking up that power.
And I think
from everything else.
Yeah, I think the reason why the ability hurt Rapunzel and not Zantiri when she was doing it was because
Zantiri had the Moonstone.
Yeah, Zantiri had the Moonstone, so it was like
it was
because that was
for the Moonstone.
Yeah,
the hurt incantation was designed for the Moonstone.
And she was using the correct one. Whereas when Rapunzel was doing it, she only had the Moondrop. Therefore, it drained her.
Sundrop. Rapunzel has Sundrop.
I mean, the very, very least they could have done was
keep him standing. And just start shouting at Zantiri.
Make it stop, or something like that. And it's like, which would have been a slightly more dramatic scene.
That would have been one of the stops.
I mean, but personally, I think what Zantiri should have done is, like, during the fight, scooping him up and and draining the Moonstone power out, what little Moonstone power he has out of him, and say something along the lines of,
"You had power and you didn't even know it,"
or "Poor little thing trying to be the new Demanitus," or something. And that would have been awesome. That would have been awesome. And it's like, why didn't they? If you have something, especially that you've been building up throughout the series, and then don't use any of it during the series finale,
you've pretty much wasted Chekhov's gun.
you've wasted Chekhov's gun. It's just like that's the whole thing about Chekhov's gun. If it's there, use it. If it's there, it will be used. That's the rule. If there's a gun, somebody's gonna die because of that gun.
Otherwise, why introduce it?
Yeah, at the very least, he could have.
Then there's the scene where his hair turns into a snake. If you actually look at the eyes of the snake, they're
kind of a goldish brown color, which is interesting in and of itself. Which I'm wondering if that's his mom's eye color,
or his actual eye color.
The eye color that his eyes are supposed to be, if it weren't for the moonstone power that he wields.
The whole little scene where you don't see the blue streak in his hair, but his eyes are still blue. Eugene's calling him the science nerd.
Or the royal science nerd. No, the royal nerd.
In that scene, he turns around, what you see is the blue streak is gone, but his blue eyes are still there, indicating that he still has some of the power, because his eyes are not the color they're supposed to be.
Which means actually it's entirely and then people point out that in the next scene with him in it, you see the blue streak in his hair and his eyes are still blue. What that could be is that some of the power was drained off enough to come out of his hair, but to stay in his eyes,
it would have to be pretty deep.
But then it just eventually just coming back because there's nothing stopping it from growing.
Yes, and
so in the future they might if they do a variant-centric TV show.
It could turn out that he can't die.
It could turn out
the moonstone itself is keeping him alive.
Yep, the moonstone power keeping him alive. He's still got a smidge of it, so it's like he ages slower than everyone else or something, and
able to every time there's a full moon.
Relatively invulnerable.
Uses the hurt incantation. He could end up making himself younger,
like sucking the life out of like a tree or something.
Like a tree or something. Yeah.
We're just repeating each other. Here's the point. Then there's
during the scene where the energy is going out and everything, you do not see a sliver of electricity bounce off Varian's hair and the hair turn black or brown.
Which actually they could have added that little bit and it would have been fine. Fans would have noticed that. That would have been awesome.
It's partly what fans were looking for. Because it's a dispersal, it doesn't collect anything. And then it gets shot off into space.
So if there's no sunstone to counteract the moonstone power within him may actually end up growing, making him almost... Does the moonstone actually get its power from the moon? Considering the eclipse and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On full moons.
And with no extra strong power source counteracting his own, it could grow. That could be the whole thing with his hair was.
And the entirety of his hair turning blue, his eyes completely turning blue, you can't even see his pupils.
That would actually be really cool. But only when he's, like, using it.
Mm-hmm. He seems to have a pretty strong resistance against the cold.
Yeah, he has really strong resistance against cold. I mean, 4 hours running to and back from Corona.
In the snow. And it was just getting
Nobody else was capable of surviving that, but he was. And the only... Actually, no, there was the group trying to save the king and queen.
Yeah, and they were just freezing. You could see the...
I mean, any scene where you see extreme cold, everyone else is shivering except Rapunzel and Varian. They're the only ones not going, it's cold. They were just walking around like, no biggie.
It's like, that's probably another... and the whole healing thing, that actually comes along with the whole... Varian is standing like 3-5 feet away from the rooster before it blows up.
He is literally...
Lance is standing like 12 to 14 feet away.
Lance gets knocked off his feet and can't hear squat.
Varian
still standing and he's just like,
still
so mad.
And so mad and he can still hear.
I think because of the invulnerability, he doesn't
realize
he's slightly detached from how dangerous the situation is because he's invulnerable and doesn't
partly
realize
invulnerable. And it's proven even further when Cassandra has the Moonstone. She lands on her face.
She does
in
a
a
full
position-
face plant
And it does
onto a rock that, at the very least, should have broken her nose and snapped her neck.
Especially the angle she was falling, like that. And she smacked into it.
If I sound funny, it's because I got a bit of a cold.
And the fact that she was able to get up, walk away from that, and not bleed indicates that, yes, the Moonstone is able to heal. But
then again, Disney does have this thing about showing blood unless it's for comedic effect.
which is annoying.
Which is annoying and does kind of ruin the continuity of how things work.
And logic.
Just basic logic. If it breaks, it can bleed.
Then there's the fact that he plays with explosives really close to his face. Half the time forgets to wear his goggles.
Yeah, you cute, Rudiger.
Cute little close.
That's what happens when he's left alone.
Then another way you can tell that he's got some of the psychological effects of the Moonstone is Hoppy. He knows how to reflect everything.
But he doesn't do it quite right.
He doesn't do it quite right.
I mean, there's just so much moon symbolism throughout both of his arcs, his evil arc and his redemption arc. So much moon symbolism there, and it's like they just completely glossed over all that for the finale, and it's like, I mean, I like the finale, but it feels like an extended episode instead of pulling that left out a lot of detail, that left out a lot of things they could have used to make it even more epic.
Yeah, like all the people they introduced throughout the seasons.
Yeah, I mean,
The second season.
Yeah, it would have put Xantiri as an even bigger threat if at their if they had an army of all their allies.
Vex and Stallion.
An army controlled by Vex and Stallion and maybe those Oompa Loompas? I don't know what they are, the leaf people. Just riding little dragonflies. I'm not entirely sure it was German though.
Rosenheim. They said stuff like
It was like a mock German accent.
Yeah, it was a mock German accent.
Yeah, they could have had. They could have had Calliope show up with like a bunch of different magical artifacts to fight her off with.
And interesting had she interacted with Varian.
Willow could have shown up as like it would. Actually, considering Calliope looks so much like his mom, I think it's entirely possible that she's like his aunt. I think she's his aunt. Or she's pulled out of Corona by an old wizard because she has no friends and she's the most annoying person in her family. So her family is like, bye.
Her sister probably missing her. You could sort of tell she's a very gentle person just from her smile alone in the picture.
And then there's Xantiri. Said I wanted to talk about Xantiri. Xantiri is pretty cool, I guess. They didn't really pull all the stops with her. I mean, they showed that her entire motivation was she won in power, which is kind of so
generic.
It's really generic. You're like, you love Corona so much, and I want power, but you won't let me have power, so I'm going to destroy Corona once I have the power.
And then nothing else.
And nothing else. There's like no other motivation behind it, and it's
a little disappointing.
It's kind of disappointing. It's a smidge. Smidge?
Yeah.
Maybe a smidge.
Schmidge.
Should have been a smidge. Off topic. Yeah, Xantiri could have. They could have played Xantiri off like one of
two ways.
Having once had the power and then desiring it again, or something. It's like, and then there's also the Moonstone and the Sun, they came from space. I mean,
is it alien in
origin? Was it just like a power source that's so powerful that was shoved together by some alien scientists, and then an explosion happened and separated, and then the whole planet exploded and caused them to separate,
and then they went shooting down to Earth.
Is it from Cybertron?
Nope. Doesn't work like that. Nope. Otherwise, they would have turned into Unicron and.
I don't know, maybe it could have been like another planet, or like
Experimenting with his own type of magic.
not necessarily magic.
And just
Science, more scientifically advanced culture, like something you would see in Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah,
Buzz Lightyear was Disney.
Yeah.
That's
That's totally connected. That is connected now. Yeah.
the little green men. The little green men created the Moonstone and the Sun Drop.
Then there's
There's how much of a threat that she posed as. I mean, who did they send up against her? Normal Coronans with no weapons.
the only one who technically had a weapon was Quirin.
And that was a pitchfork.
What did he do with his own sword?
Only the soldiers, which was for some reason just Pete and Stan, and Eugene carried swords. Even the king didn't carry his sword.
He carried a frying pan. Varian carried chemicals, which is his usual
It's
arsenal.
his usual arsenal.
'Cause he knows how
The
to work with
thugs
that.
you would have expected to have at least prepared a weapon or two.
While
I
still
mean, I know
in
Attila's thing is that he's a baker, but he was a thug before he was a baker.
Weapon.
So he knows how to use a weapon.
the mine was totally useless.
And then there's
Shorty, he just disappeared.
Shorty is just weird. I mean, personally, I think he's like a damaged. He's like a wizard that got
His
damaged.
brain fried.
One of his experiments backfired on him, and his brain fried, and he'd never been the same. Which explains why he's immune to all the weirdness. Welcome to my world. I mean, did anybody else notice the symbolism in the where? I mean, in the. Okay, I'll get back to that. We'll finish talking about Xanadu first. I mean, it would have put her up as an even bigger threat if she was able to take down a fully prepared army.
The only one she directly attacked was Varian, and she went like this. If anyone
Trying to smash him, and it's
his
like,
raccoon.
is there something there?
Yeah, Disney left out
They left too much out.
important little details.
I mean, and if they'd had a full-blown army at their ready,
It would have been way, way more impressive.
yeah, it would have been more impressive on the villain side. Plus, we probably would have been probably. You know what would have been awesome? Is if Quirin actually fought off like Stallion and like six other people with swords.
With either just brute strength, which we could see.
Well, what I really wanted was a scene where Quirin kicks butt, and he never got that.
The only one he got to
that was
beat
like the
up.
most disappointing part.
The only person he got to beat up was Edward, and he was also under the control of the mine trap.
So he didn't put his all into it, just enough to put on a show.
And
then the next thing, he's free and frees everybody else, and that's it. I mean, that's just really disappointing. You build him up as this big, impressive soldier, and he's like, does nothing.
just like Callus.
I mean, yeah.
Big, impressive.
No, we'll talk about that during the Callus. During the Callus one. We'll talk about that during our Star Wars Rebels one. Then there's.
Well, one thing about Xantiri was because of her motivations, it was kind of lacking.
Okay,
but
go ahead.
If she had actually proclaimed, "Once I'm done with Corona, I'm going to
rule the world
and destroy the rest of the world and remake it in my image," that would have been even scarier.
That would have been more impressive. It's just as tropey, but it's more impressive.
Tropey.
Yes. Tropey. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to talk about is the weird plays. Besides the fact that I think that Bill Cipher's from there, is the fact that you realize that all of them, they turned into something that symbolizes them.
Varian.
His hair grew into a snake. He looks cute, but he's very dangerous. He's deceptively dangerous.
A cute little snake on his head. That's poisonous.
I mean, you can tell because the fangs were sticking down like that. I mean, I know that's generically what people think of a snake, but
that's very inaccurate.
But the toothy ones, the ones with teeth, the ones with the two really long, sharp teeth like that,
According to cartoons, those are the highly poisonous ones.
So he's deceptively dangerous. And ending it
Looks cute, but can actually kill you.
Yes. There's
Catalina. She turned into a kitty cat.
because she's not that dangerous, and she's adorable. Just
Angry. She always loses her head.
yeah, her head was sort of floating off, and it's like, yeah, she tends to lose her head on a regular basis. Lance sees everything.
The king. There's two sides to him.
But it can also, but it was also playing off the whole king of the deck cards,
The queen was a rabbit.
meaning she's a big softie. She's like so sweet and cute. Rabbits are essentially done as harmless. Rudiger, he got flowers grow all over him, basically saying it's like
he's not natural.
He's a part of nature
Mm-hmm.
or something. One of those two.
Big nose. He's well known for his big nose.
If he doesn't have it, it's if he doesn't know his own identity. Nobody knows. Well, he doesn't know who he is because for the majority of his life, that's been his identity.
Yeah, the Candy Man.
He just swelled up like a balloon, and I think it's because he's full of hot air. Then there's the swole goat, which is stronger than he looks.
Which is pretty much saying he's a meat goat.
Horse on a stick. Freya, whatever. What was her name?
Yeah, I think that was her name. I think it was Freya.
Fidelia?
Don't really keep track.
Something like that. Her head, she was a stick horse, which essentially was just another way of saying she's a horse, but a different kind. Children ride her, which is now quite literal. Then there's the shoe, and then there's what's his name? The shoe guy. He turned into a shoe. Because that's his entire identity. He is the cobbler. Everything he does is because of shoes. Pete and Stan. They grew into each other and they're like, eh. Which is another way of saying they're attached at the hip. They're attached at the hip, and it's like they never leave each other's side. And I think that's hilarious when you think about it.
They're the best of friends who never leave each other's sides unless they're going home. Because Stan has a wife and kids, whereas Pete kind of lives with his cat.
I don't actually know.
I think they were friends since they were children.
Join the guards together. They're like attached at the hip.
It's rare to see the two of them away from each other.
Was there anybody else?
There's a few others. I just don't remember what they turned into. Anyway, every single one of them was symbolized.
Every single one of them was a form of symbolic of their character, which I don't think I'm not entirely sure anybody really picked up on.
Then there's the whole Xantiri being trapped in it for a few thousand years. Time has no real meaning there.
So
she had
Bill Cipher could have destroyed the place millions of years ago, but because time has a few million years ago, but it's still fine because time has no meaning.
Yeah. Then there's Xantiri. She's able to go into the minds of other people, and
much like Bill Cipher can, while she was trapped in there.
It's highly likely she
That's
taught Bill Cipher.
Or the other way around.
Yeah. Going into the mindscape.
So it could have been like time is so warped there when she was in there, she befriended Bill Cipher, whereas when they went in there, the whole thing had changed to pre-Bill Cipher.
Making time kind of warped in there.
Which shows you just how warped that reality is.
And I'm fairly certain Barry and Pete himself in the cloud. Nobody notices because the apron's in the way.
Because Barry can get away with peeing on himself and nobody will know. Not unless they smell something. And I think Catalina's really the only one that would notice at first.
And I think
being a wolf,
Varian
she's a really good sense of smell.
Varian changed first, but he was also the one who changed the least.
Oh, I think that was
partly to do with the moonstone, likely due to having the moonstone in it. It's a tiny fraction of it.
Anything else? Are we done?
Oh yeah, the reason we think that Shorty's a wizard.
No, I already explained that.
Then there's
This is going to be a very
Xavier.
long video.
This is a long video.
Oh yeah,
Xavier.
What is Xavier?
Xavier actually has this tendency to use magic potions and whatnot.
Actually, I think it's because of Demanitus's influence that the people of Corona some members of Corona regularly use magic.
Magic and alchemy.
Magic and alchemy, because he was a very big influence in their history.
And Xavier's dug pretty deep into it. He knew quite a bit of the ins and outs.
I think, well, you know what would also been really cool? Is if Varian's mom was a descendant of Demanitus.
Yes, that would actually be pretty cool.
That would have been really cool. But that also begs the question, who in the world would he have gone out with? If anybody, he seemed pretty content to hang out with his monkeys for the rest of his life.
I think he might have gotten married after.
It would have been really cool if some member,
A couple of people could be related to Demanitus.
yeah, just like a small number. I mean, the king could be related, or maybe the queen. I don't know.
No, the queen is from another kingdom.
Are you sure if she's from another kingdom? It's very, very hard to tell. The way the show puts it, they keep it very vague as to whose kingdom it started out as.
It would be a little disturbing, but kind of accurate if
they were cousins or something.
If they were cousins.
Because that happens
pretty
a lot
back then.
That happened pretty often back then.
In the 1800s, during with royalty, so they started figuring out that inbreeding was a bad idea.
Too many crazy queens.
Thrones is total proof of that.
There might be a few other things.
Well, training Calliope and being related to Demanitus would actually kind of make sense.
Would kind of make sense. Like if the wizard is like another relative who she looks up to, she obsesses over magic and everything. So it's like, oh, great grandpa, you're way totally into magic. Could you please tell me? Okay, but only if you become my apprentice. Yes. I get to work at the Spire. If she is Varian's aunt, it'd be like she like the last time she visited was when Varian was born, and it's like, oh, he's so cute. What's with the blue streak? Did you do something? You're putting a finger. Did you do something?
No. Blame magic. Yeah, and she would have been, if she was his aunt, she probably would have gone a little more softer on him. Just coming up to him, was like, no, doesn't like any of Rapunzel and her friend, doesn't really care much for Rapunzel and her friends up until she was very, that it's like, oh, my nephew, you're so cute! Oh, here's candies of ambrosia, just pop into his mouth and yum, 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 yum. Just fill it up with candy and magic. Magical items.
Actually, I'm more into alchemy. Schmalchemy. Magic is where it is.
Has to do with the little magic. Is only if Rapunzel asked me to.
She'd try to talk him into becoming her apprentice, and I'd be like, no. And Rapunzel going, no. No. Varian's not going to be your apprentice. He's going to be the royal engineer.
Really?
Yes. Once this is all over.
Okay, that makes sense. I probably would get in a little bit of an argument, and she would just probably let him play with stuff. Just going on their trip with them to Demanitus's tomb. Her going because it's Demanitus's tomb. Him going because it's Demanitus's tomb.
Maybe have Willow tag along because it's a tomb! Tombs are cool! She just loves exploring. I mean, okay, we're writing a fanfic about that right now. Just how we think it should have gone.
Yes. Probably would have been interesting had Varian talked to the monkey that was carrying Demantis' brain.
Trying to get him to come out again. Come on, I want to talk to Demantis.
Please, I beg you.
I mean, I can understand why that lady wouldn't show up. I mean, but at the very least, Calliope and some people from Diane's Kingdom. I can't even remember names.
Names are not a strong suit.
Come on, I can tell you the names of every Doctor Who actor. From the first Doctor all the way to the 13th. That's easy. Memorize everything. Probably cut this part out.
They could have done a lot of things.
You can leave down in the comment section what you think they could have done. When it comes to Rapunzel and Cassandra, I think they should have framed the scene a little differently. But other than that, everything about Cassandra and Rapunzel was great.
Yeah, they're perfect. They focused everything on them for the most part,
Which was okay with everyone else.
because the story did kind of just. Yeah, in that scene where she does the hurt, where Xantiri does the hurt incantation, it doesn't hurt Cassandra or Rapunzel.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense.
Unless they're both still carrying a little bit of the power in them. But
if that's the case, then Varian shouldn't be. Which brings us to our earlier topic, which we already told you about, which is Varian should have still been standing.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else should have been unconscious or dead.
I was like, Eugene, he was still waking up, fading out, waking up, fading out. It's like, what?
Pretty sure everybody was at the very least unconscious. At the most, they were dead.
Very dead.
Being the youngest with the least amount to drain, I think Angry would have been the first to die.
Yeah.
With the second being the oldest person there, which would be Monty, the Candyman. The Candyman can.
It's her dad. Feldspar. His name is Feldspar.
The shoe guy. The
I'm
cobbler.
saying the wrong person's name first.
Okay, and I think that's enough for the topic, right?
Yeah.
If you have any ideas or things we missed or whatever, just go ahead and toss them in the comments.
Throw a couple theories our way if you want to.
Nothing inappropriate.
No weird comments, spirit.
Please no, we know
Please
weird
no
comments.
weird comments.
Bye-bye.